In a world where being seen matters more than being understood, many chase the spotlight without questioning its cost. Applause comes quickly, but fades even faster. Beneath the noise, there exists a quieter path, one that doesn't promise attention, but offers something far more valuable. This is a story about that choice, a choice between being popular and being wise. Chapter 1. The Desire to be Seen. Arjun lived in a small village where days moved slowly, and life followed a familiar rhythm. The mornings began with the sound of birds, the afternoons with quiet work, and the evenings with simple conversations under open skies. Most people were content with this life, but Arjun wasn't. He often found himself watching others, those who stood out, those who drew attention, those whose names people spoke with excitement. It didn't matter how they did it. Some were loud, some were bold, some simply knew how to make others look at them. And every time Arjun saw it, something stirred inside him. A quiet thought, I want that. Not the work, not the struggle, the attention. He wanted people to notice him when he walked by. He wanted to hear his name in conversations. He wanted to feel important. So he began to change. At first, it was small things. He spoke a little louder than usual. He tried to make people laugh, even if the jokes weren't meaningful. When that brought him a few smiles, he went further. He started doing things just to be seen, interrupting conversations, acting differently around groups, saying things he didn't fully believe, just because others would agree. And slowly, it started working. People began to notice him. They reacted to him. They laughed at his words, repeated his actions, and for a moment, he felt seen. That feeling, it was powerful. It filled something inside him he didn't even realize was empty. It made him feel important, valued, alive. For the first time, Arjun believed, this is what I was missing. But moments don't last forever. The laughter faded. The attention shifted. The same people who noticed him one day were focused on someone else the next. And just like that, the feeling disappeared. Arjun was left in the same place again, unnoticed, unheard, and the silence felt heavier than before. So he chased it again, this time with more effort, more energy, more desperation. He tried harder to stand out. He pushed himself to be louder, funnier, more impressive. But with every attempt, something subtle began to change. He was no longer acting naturally. He was performing. Every word was measured by how others would react. Every action was shaped by what would gain attention. Without realizing it, Arjun stopped asking himself what he truly felt, and started asking only one question: will they notice me? Days turned into a cycle. Attention, silence, chasing, repeating, and though he was sometimes seen, he was never fulfilled. Because deep inside, beneath all the noise and effort, there was a truth he had not yet faced. He was becoming someone others liked, but someone he did not truly know. And that was the beginning of his journey, not toward success, but toward understanding what truly matters. Chapter 2. The meeting. The days after felt heavier for Arjun. The laughter he once chased now sounded distant. The attention he once craved now felt incomplete. Something inside him had begun to question everything. One evening, unable to quiet his thoughts, Arjun walked away from the village, past the familiar houses, past the fields, until the noise of people slowly disappeared. At the far end, where the land met silence, stood an old banyan tree. Its roots spread deep into the earth, its branches wide and still, as if it had been watching the world for far longer than anyone could remember. Beneath it sat an old man. He wasn't doing anything remarkable. No one surrounded him. No one praised him. He simply sat there, calm and undisturbed. Arjun paused. There was something unusual about him, not because he stood out, but because he didn't try to. Curiosity pulled Arjun closer. Why do you sit here alone? He asked. Don't you get bored? The old man looked at him, his eyes steady, his expression peaceful. I am not alone, he replied softly. I am with my thoughts. Arjun didn't understand. How can that be enough? He said. Don't you want people to notice you, to know you? The old man smiled, not with amusement, but with understanding. I spent many years wanting exactly that, he said. I spoke loudly, acted boldly, and did everything I could to be seen. Arjun leaned in, interested. And did it work? For a while, the old man said. People noticed me, they praised me, they remembered my name. Arjun's eyes lit up. Then why did you stop? The old man's smile faded slightly, replaced by something deeper. Because I realized something, he said. The more I tried to be seen by others, the less I understood myself. Arjun fell silent. I gained attention, the man continued, but I lost clarity. I gained approval, but I lost truth. He looked directly at Arjun. Tell me, he asked gently. Do you know why you do the things you do? The question caught Arjun off guard. I just want to be noticed, he admitted. The old man nodded. And after you are noticed, what then? Arjun opened his mouth to answer, but no words came out. He had never thought beyond that moment. The old man continued. Being known by others feels important, but it is not the same as knowing yourself. The wind moved softly through the tree. For a moment, everything felt still. Sit, the old man said. Arjun hesitated, then slowly sat beside him. At first, the silence felt uncomfortable. There were no distractions, no applause, no noise to fill the space, only his thoughts, and they were louder than anything he had heard before. Questions began to rise, doubts he had ignored, feelings he had buried. For the first time, Arjun wasn't trying to impress anyone. He wasn't performing. He was simply there. After a long while, he looked at the old man. "Why does this feel so strange?" he asked quietly. The old man replied, "Because you have spent so much time being seen, that you have forgotten how to see." Arjun looked down, absorbing the words. In that moment, something shifted within him. It wasn't a sudden realization. It wasn't a dramatic change, but a small, quiet awareness that maybe there was more to life than being noticed. Chapter 3. The Inner Struggle. Arjun returned to the village, but something was no longer the same. The noise, the laughter, the constant movement, it all felt familiar yet distant. He tried to slip back into his old routine. He spoke louder again. He tried to be funny. He acted the way people expected him to. And once again, people noticed. They smiled. They reacted. They gave him the same attention he had always chased. But this time, it didn't feel right. The laughter sounded hollow. The attention felt temporary, even while it was happening. And in the middle of it all, a quiet voice returned to him. "Do you know yourself?" The old man's words refused to leave. Every time Arjun tried to impress others, he felt a strange discomfort inside, as if he was watching himself from a distance, knowing that what he was doing wasn't real. For the first time, he became aware of the difference between who he was and who he was pretending to be. That awareness brought conflict. Part of him still wanted the attention, still wanted the approval, still wanted to feel important in the eyes of others. But another part of him, quieter, deeper, wanted something else. The loud world of popularity, and the silent pull of understanding. He felt restless, unsettled. Nothing satisfied him completely anymore. Not the applause, not the silence. One evening, standing among a group of people, laughing at something he didn't truly find funny, he suddenly stopped. The laughter around him continued, but inside everything went still. A simple question rose within him. Why am I doing this? And this time, he didn't ignore it. He stepped away, not dramatically, not with anger, just quietly. He walked away from the noise, away from the need to be seen. That night he sat alone. No distractions, no audience, only himself. At first it was uncomfortable. His mind wandered, his thoughts raced. He felt the urge to go back, to the noise, to the people, to the familiar comfort of attention. But he stayed. Slowly, the noise inside him began to settle, and in that stillness, he started to see things more clearly. He saw how often he had acted, just to gain approval, how many times he had changed himself, to fit into others' expectations, how much of his life had been driven by the need to be liked. It wasn't an easy realization. It was uncomfortable, even painful, but it was honest, and that honesty felt different, real. From that day, Arjun didn't completely leave his old ways, but he began to change them. He spoke less and listened more. He acted less for attention and more with intention. He started choosing silence, even when noise was easier. It was not a perfect journey. There were days he slipped back, days he chased attention again. But now he noticed it, and that awareness was the beginning of his transformation. Because the hardest battle is not with the world outside, it is with the habits within. And for the first time in his life, Arjun had stopped running from himself and started facing who he truly was. Chapter 4. The Path of Wisdom. Change did not come to Arjun like a storm. It came quietly, slowly, almost unnoticed at first. But this time it was real. He no longer woke up thinking about how to be seen. He began to ask a different question. What can I understand today? The shift was small, but powerful. In conversations, Arjun spoke less, not because he had nothing to say, but because he had learned the value of listening. He started noticing things others ignored. The hesitation in someone's voice, the meaning behind simple words, the difference between noise and truth. People didn't immediately realize it, but something about him had changed. He was calmer, more grounded. He no longer rushed to fill silence. He allowed it to exist, and strangely, that silence began to draw people in. not because he demanded attention, but because he carried clarity. Arjun also began to act differently. When someone needed help, he didn't do it for praise. He did it quietly. No announcements, no need for recognition, just action. At first, no one noticed, but over time, people began to feel it. They noticed that Arjun's words had weight, that when he spoke, it meant something. He no longer tried to impress, yet his presence left an impression. One day, a disagreement broke out among a group in the village. Voices rose, egos clashed. In the past, Arjun would have joined in, trying to be heard, trying to stand out. But this time he stayed quiet. He listened, and when he finally spoke, his words were simple, but clear. He didn't take sides. He brought understanding. Slowly, the noise settled, not because he was louder, but because he was wiser. That day, people looked at him differently, not with excitement, but with respect. And respect lasts longer than attention. Days turned into months. Arjun continued walking this path. He read more, reflected more, observed life deeply. He spent time with the old man, learning not through lectures, but through silence, questions, and experience. The more he learned, the less he felt the need to prove anything. And that changed everything, because when you stop trying to prove your worth, you begin to live it. People started coming to him, not because he asked them to, but because they trusted him. They asked for advice, for clarity, for guidance, and Arjun never rushed to answer. He thought, he listened, he responded with care. His words were no longer many, but they were meaningful. The same boy who once chased attention was now creating impact, not through noise, but through wisdom. And the most powerful part, he didn't even notice when it happened, because he was no longer focused on being seen. He was focused on understanding, and that quiet transformation had made him someone truly worth listening to. Chapter 5. What Truly Matters. Years passed, and the village changed. New voices rose, new faces became known. Loud laughter filled the air, just as it always had. Names that were once celebrated slowly faded into memory, because that is the nature of popularity. It shines brightly, but never for long. And through all of it, Arjun remained, not at the center of attention, not the loudest voice in the room, but something far greater. He became a place people turned to. When confusion grew, they came to him. When decisions felt heavy, they came to him. When life felt uncertain, they came to him, not because he demanded to be heard, but because he had learned to understand. There was a calmness in him now, a quiet strength that didn't need to prove itself. And those who sat with him often left with more than answers. They left with clarity. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the village, a young boy approached him. His eyes were bright, restless, just like Arjun's once were. "Tell me," the boy said eagerly, "how can I become famous like the others?" Arjun looked at him, and for a moment he saw his past. The same hunger, the same desire to be seen. He smiled gently. "I chased that once," he said, "and for a while I had it." The boy leaned closer. "Then why did you stop?" Arjun's gaze softened. "Because I realized something too late. Being seen is not the same as being fulfilled." The boy fell silent. Arjun continued, "Popularity will give you moments. Wisdom will give you a life." The wind moved softly between them. "If you chase attention," he said, "you will always depend on others to feel worthy. But if you seek understanding, you will never feel empty again." The boy listened carefully. "Which one should I choose?" he asked. Arjun paused, just long enough for the answer to carry weight. Then he said, "Choose what will still matter, when no one is watching." The boy looked thoughtful, as if something deep had just begun to shift within him. And as he walked away, Arjun watched quietly, not with pride, but with peace, because the lesson had moved forward, just as it once had for him. The sun disappeared beyond the horizon. The village grew quiet, and beneath the old banyan tree, Arjun sat, not as someone who was known by all, but as someone who truly knew himself. If this story spoke to you, don't just watch it, reflect on it. Take a moment and ask yourself, are you chasing attention, or are you building understanding? Because the life you choose today will shape the person you become tomorrow. If you believe in choosing wisdom over popularity, start small. Spend time in silence. Listen more than you speak. Choose meaning over momentary praise. And if this message resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes a single thought can change the direction of a life. Follow for more stories that don't just entertain, but help you grow.